We don't need to talk about Disney. We got a lot of topics here. Why don't we got a ton of earnings? Celsius, Bumble, let's see, Topgolf Callaway, Coupon, Airbnb, Beyond Meat, Affirm. Probably won't hit all of them, but I want to talk first Nintendo. I don't think we need to talk about the earnings, not too relevant, but the most important thing was the announcement of a second movie that has been in the works, I guess, for around 3 years, and is probably, maybe they're pretty patient, they're pretty slow, so maybe a year or two out. First, it would have been nice to tell shareholders that you've been working on this for 3 years, but I think that confirms a little bit of our thesis where you got to trust that they're doing these things. And second, this is one of the stocks where it's like, okay, the thesis is finally working. All right, cool. Well, why did you have to do that right now when I don't have the money?
when I'm no longer a shareholder, things finally start
Yeah,
working out. Yeah, that is funny. We waited 3 years of owning Nintendo for the market to finally come around and basically say, you know what, this might be a sustainable business. Like
yeah, and it
maybe it
keeps
isn't a
ripping. It's up.
cyclical. It's up 3%
Yeah,
today. Yes,
3%. Yeah, it's really the momentum
which that is a
starting there.
huge swing for Nintendo, just so everyone
Yeah,
knows. That's just,
yeah. Usually doesn't trade much. Sometimes it's the yen that'll affect things, but yeah. But okay, what are your thoughts on this thing? People are worried that it's live action. I think generally people are concerned about that, but it seems like they got a Marvel guy in there. It's going to be kind of standard stuff. Zelda seems like one of those sectors of the gaming industry where the fans are have a very high bar. So I'm assuming that a lot of people won't like the movie, even if it's good. The only way they'll like it if it's like if it's somewhere like the Lord of the Rings trilogy or something like that. But I think
yeah.
it's not gonna be as big as the Super Mario movie, but it'll be good. And then I don't
What
know.
do you
They
think about
talked about
Taylor
they
Swift playing it?
yeah,
Playing
that's
in
funny.
what's her
The
role or
I
the
think that I don't know the story. Anyone that knows it well, they know him really well. I think Zelda is the queen
Zelda's
person,
the
and then Link
girl?
is the hero, yeah, or the guy
Yeah,
that's doing a lot of stuff that you're with, and then there's the evil. It's the classic story. That's the age old time. Um,
there's
I
this
think it was
comment
nice.
in our chat says, I think this Nintendo CFO has just forgotten the password to his brokerage account. I can't think of any other reason for not buying back shares.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
have bought back shares, but they do it weirdly. They say like, okay, we just announced a probably like maybe $500 million equivalent in yen, and then they perform it in like 5 days, and you're like, cool, you guys have so much liquidity. Why don't we just get this thing maybe cranked up to about 2 billion a year here, since you generate 4 billion in earnings, give or take where the yen is trading.
Yeah. I Their capital allocation will always boggle my mind. I've never what they don't need to be so conservative. I get it.
Yeah,
I get it. The Wii after the Wii U, you were in some dire positions.
but
But
it's already conservative because they built up that cash position.
yeah, I mean, what do they have today? 12 billion USD in cash.
Hard to tell. I haven't excuse me,
Can't remember.
calculated it yet. So did you read they gave out their annual investor presentation this year? Did you check that out? The 60-page slide deck, kind of their whole comprehensive thing.
Yeah, I think so. When did they
They won.
release
They
that?
put it out. They released it along with the earnings report, I believe.
Oh, maybe I didn't see it. Oh, okay, yeah. I
They
didn't
did an
look at it.
update. They did an updated one. They did that last year as well.
Which I'm
I
not a
think it
shareholder, so
was
I don't have any responsibility to do that.
yeah, I know. It always feels like there's the responsibility to read everything. I will say I did go on another channel. Rhino couldn't make the schedule work, but it was called the Matt. Let me confirm it. It's Matt Money. Yeah, channel. A lot of fundamental investors there. Yeah, real Matt Money. Matt MATT and then Money. We discussed the Nintendo update after earnings, which was quite fun. They got a nice little channel over there, so thank you guys. And we had a listener of ours, I believe, connected. So if you're listening, thank you for making the connection. But I liked from that presentation the reiteration of talking about taking all of their franchises and putting stuff into visual content and then putting stuff into the theme parks over time. For example, building out the Donkey Kong land in Japan, which I assume if it's successful in Japan, they'll just copy it and put it in the other ones that are, around the world, the four other ones. And that might take a decade or two to really build that out, but that's going to work really well. And then I like how they talk about time and again about using that, not necessarily just to make money, but to reinforce the gaming franchises and to make even more money and build and have even more fans in gaming. So I think their strategy is coming to fruition, and they
Yeah,
really
there's some
are.
good stuff in this slideshow.
Yeah, I mean
1.4 billion
they're
at the box office on Mario, roughly.
yeah, well, we knew that, right?
I remember it at 1.3, but yeah.
Stop tracking. Yeah.
One
Yeah,
point
170 million people watched so far. Yeah, and
so it boosted game sales basically by 30% on Mario titles for the most part.
for legacy ones, yeah. And then they already talked about, I believe this might have been the regular earnings slides, that Mario game sold like 4.5 million copies within the first week. So
Mario
the earnings are
Wonder.
nice. And then yeah, so I like the theme park business is doing well. The visual content stuff is chugging along. They're gonna be slow, not really a big deal. I don't think they're not trying to make money off of this. But the only question now is the next hardware. I think that's probably the only question left, along with what capital allocation will be or capital return strategy will be.
Yeah, we've been saying that for a while, but yeah. Mario Kart 9.
Well,
That'll
I
be the
guess yeah,
next.
that'll hopefully be, if their history is any indication, the new Mario Kart will launch along with that. Yeah. But I think that's the only question left, because the expansion strategy seems to have been confirmed that it works.
How many online members do they have now?
That was near the end. I believe they had 38 million, so not a big jump. It's still solid, but they don't give out like a revenue number. They don't give out how many people have what tier, because some tiers are more expensive than others.
I see.
Um,
Well,
Anything else?
no, I mean it's just a bummer that everyone seems to be recognizing what we've been talking about for a while when we're no longer
Stock's still
shareholders.
not. Yeah, stock's not uh up too much. We got a question. Do you think the Japanese yen will have a turnaround which will help US investors? I think that is referencing Nintendo. I have no idea. It has been one of the biggest headwinds of ever, really, with the yen. So
But
maybe
also,
just the base rates, like it's probably not going to be as bad, but I do not know.
I don't know. I'd also say, well, maybe I'm thinking about this wrong, but they're earning a lot in USD and converting back to yen, and they're making a lot of money on
Right.
that.
44, about 40%, but it's like 40% USD, and then the rest is mainly Europe and Japan, and a little bit East Asia as well. So quite a bit of a headwind still for US based investors.
Yeah. Got a lot of questions here. How would you value Nintendo today? I remember going through
I would,
this when we were talking about Nintendo, and it's kind of tough because you don't just want to strip out like their ass. Like, do you strip out the cash? Eh, but do
yeah,
you
I
do it
think
on
so.
an EV basis? But yeah, but what if they never return it?
I mean, eventually it's going to get returned with that dividend. Like the dividend's not, it's not small. So
the I think you basically just kind of have to get to an assumption of what you think they'll learn over the next 5 years, which is really hard to guess. Frankly, a lot of it depends on the new Switch rollout. But
yeah, I think one thing, I wouldn't value anything on the stake in the Pokemon company, because I think the value of that comes from the exclusive titles that they launch on their hardware. So the value is going to be earned from the Pokemon earnings. It's like, okay, look at what you think. You got to kind of have a little bit of variability and maybe kind of discount it a bit, just because the foreign exchange, their history of cyclicality. But yeah, when the new console launches, kind of think, okay, will things be durable? Maybe grow a little bit, stuff like that.
here's
It's
the other thing I was thinking about. Let me pull this up because I was just kind of re-looking at Nintendo over the years. And if you look at their revenue, and I will share my screen because apparently some people like it when we do that. I
I
don't know
will.
if,
I'll let
I don't
you.
know if the
Okay,
listeners
now you can do
frustrate.
it.
Total revenues. Yeah, let's do total revenues. Sorry, 1 second. Share screen. This makes for great audio. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I think you always worry about the like just waiting, but there's some shows that blabber on side stuff for like 5 minutes, and at that point I get annoyed. But we never do.
Okay, here's a good
Too
example.
much of delay.
So I've got the operating income up for anyone who doesn't know. This is in yen. For anyone who's just listening, basically it's from 2016 to the last 12 months in operating income in yen. And it's flat to down like 10%, maybe 20% from 2021. But if you look at it purely from, if you just excluded,
that's March 2021, so the heavy COVID year.
Yeah, if you just excluded the last 3 years, so if you purely looked at it from like the last 12 months versus March of 2020, so right before COVID, you'd say, and you didn't know the numbers in between, you'd think, wow, this is a business that's really growing. And I think you could say the same thing for the number of software units they're selling. You say, wow, they're selling a lot more software units. This must be really valuable business. Oh, they're still selling. Now they have a installed base that's twice as large. It must be continuing to grow. But because we've gotten that lumpiness, and because it's been basically flat to down over the last 3 years, I think a lot of people look at it and say it's in rough shape or it's not going to be sustainable. Do you think
or
it's
they hit the
fair?
cyclical peak? Yeah.
Do you think it'd be fair to strip out, like look at a pre-COVID, post-COVID?
Yeah, and I also think excluding that March 2021 year, which is basically going from April 2020 to March 2021, is fine because there's just a huge one-time bump in users. They have a chart in here. Yeah, so if we look at their sales of, maybe I'll share the screen. This is a pretty good one. Everyone can see my 100 tabs. So if you look at their first party software sell-through, which basically means the first party titles, so the ones they make themselves, not the third party stuff like something from Electronic Arts. And then sell-through, I believe, I always get this confused. Sell-through means sell through to the customer. Sell in means sell into the retailer. If you look at 2020, well, that was a huge bump, and we're actually down from there. But remember, there was a pandemic. If you take that year out, like it's been pretty linear growth. And remember, I guess maybe
Animal
not,
Crossing
maybe
also
not
sold 20
remember,
million
but
units.
for anyone that doesn't know, first party titles are where they make the vast majority of their profits.
It's funny if you look at that chart and you just, instead of, it's funny that if they sold half as much software first party titles in 2020, like, so let's say it was halfway between 2019 and 2021, you'd probably have a much higher multiple on Nintendo today.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I think without the pandemic, the stock is much higher because people wouldn't be comparing it to that. And they say, oh, it's a cyclical, or not a cyclical anymore. It's just a compounder. But what's interesting is that it'll be fine because eventually you'll generate enough cash. We don't want to talk about this one forever